Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming back to the conversation. I'm Sue Mosley, and I'm here with my co-host, Shelia Arnett. And we have a special guest today in the studio, keeping in the theme of political season for the midterm elections. We have an incumbent school board member. So we have Nancy Thrower with us, school board member who represents District 4. I should know that because that was my district. That's right. I forgot about that.
I had big shoes to fill.
No. Well, thank you for coming in to our little circus here that we do. Sheila and I and Tom have enjoyed having conversation with local politicians and kind of putting y'all maybe a little bit on the hot seat. Not a lot. I mean, that chair was pretty cool when you got in here.
And Florida's usually warm, so.
Right. So we haven't tortured anybody really bad. I was at a meeting earlier today with Carl Zalek, who I happen to be friends with and like Carl very much. And he said that he was at a meeting yesterday and they tortured him. So I felt bad for him, but it comes with the territory.
Yes, it does. Thick skin, soft heart.
Yeah, that's, some people, I tell people, running is hard, but serving is harder. So tell us, what's your plans? Are you kicking off a campaign, re-election campaign?
Yes, ma'am. We've already started. I filed right at the very end of January, and of course February is a short month. It went by fast, and now we're already in March. So the work continues, and I'm really excited about the possibility of, if the voters think it's a good idea to serve a second term, and hopefully it'll be a more typical term than the first one, and see if we can just get past this cusp to greatness that we've been on for a long time, and I look forward to being proud of seeing that happen.
Well, good. You've done a good job so far, and I'm sure the voters see that, I'm sure. So let's talk about some issues that are facing. I'm going to ask you, and I've made this for every politician that's come in here, or candidate. I don't know how to refer to people that have come in here. My thing this year is because of the setup right now with the county commissioners, where several of them are on multiple terms and they wouldn't be terming themselves out necessarily, that might be time for them to look at putting term limits on the ballot. Which of course would affect school board as well. What's your thoughts on term limits, since you'd be doing 8 years? Right.
For me, and you can take this to the bank, I'm putting it out there publicly, this will be my last term. And I think it is important to be able to serve more than one term. It takes time, especially in an organization of our size, with a budget of our size and almost 45,000 students again. Thank gosh, so many of them came back. It just does take time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, entrenchment isn't good either, when you're trying to innovate. So I'm fine with the 8 years. There's a part of me that almost wishes 12, but that would be as far as I would.
Keith Poole mentioned that, and I hadn't really thought about that. He said, would it be 8 or would it be 12? Jack Stackman is always a proponent of 6-year terms, which is an interesting thing, which would keep people from actually getting vested into the pension system. So it would be cheaper for taxpayers, obviously. I'm thinking that's the motivation behind that. So there's a lot of interesting angles that could be looked at, and I believe that the county commission has to move it forward to put it on the ballot. I think. Tom and I spoke about that. I'm going to ask Carl when he's in here. I think the commissioners have to vote whether or not it goes on the ballot for the people to vote on. So they would have
for just the commissioners?
No, I think it's for term limits. It would affect county. I don't know. I'm going to ask Carl when he comes in.
Yes.
Maybe that's a question for Wesley Wilcox. I don't know.
Right. I suppose we could do it locally if the legislature didn't do it statewide.
Yeah, well, it would just be a local initiative. I mean, I vaguely remember it came up years ago, and I think that's what it was, that the county commissioners had to be the ones to bring it forward to vote on. Just like a sales tax or anything else, they have to approve it. So.
Right. Well, that would be keeping in line with the innovation piece, I think, that Marion County citizens are looking for. We have a lot of challenges with growth and being able to serve each and every student. We want to be able to do that. So I don't mind being
Yeah.
a groundbreaker for things.
Well, and you know, I've said it many times that it was Cheryl Applequist who was before me, who had said when she got ready to step down off the school board, she said, I've done all that I can do in 8 years, and it's time for somebody else to have a chance. And that really had stayed with me. And so when my 8 years was up, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
And I've said it, I've been very public about it. At that time, Jackie Porter and I were feuding. We weren't really getting things done. We weren't moving things forward, you know, so it was best to let somebody else have an opportunity. And
Right. We all have our seasons. And,
That's right.
And timing is everything.
That's right, that's right. Do you have something you want to ask?
Well, talking about the term limit thing, I spent some time in Virginia recently. My cousin's husband is the chair of the Republican Party in Lexington, Virginia. Their governor they can run multiple terms, but they can only run for 4 years.
So they have to sit out
They
a
have
term?
they have to sit out a term, and they can come
Really? I
back.
thought governor was national,
No,
like everything else.
no. So
8 years.
Virginia, McAuliffe that ran against Youngkin, he had been the previous governor, but and that, I don't know that we need to do that here, but that was an interesting concept, that you're not making decisions based on a re-election bid. You're making decisions because you have 4 years to serve, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think term limits does that a lot as well, is that if you could only serve in that office, we already have that for the legislation and, for the Senate in Florida, is they can only serve 2 terms, and then, they can move up and go to Senate. But, one of the things that, as I traveled up there, of course, critical race theory was like the hot button topic in Virginia. It was kind of the thing that parents across the country, I think the catalyst for all of that was Loudoun County, Virginia. So the critical race theory is the new hot button. So I wanted to get you to kind of talk about that in Marion County. Are you hearing that from constituents? And tell us what is the policy or what's going on in Rockbridge County. I'm sorry, in Marion County.
Where you live.
Yeah. Well, Rockbridge County is where I used to
live.
Yeah.
Where you currently live.
Currently.
Right, sure. And I would say that our legislature had been very forward-thinking years ago. It was in the 90s that by state statute we are required to teach African American history. And that's very different than critical race theory. And our governor reinforced that by basically outlawing teaching critical race theory. So I feel in Florida that we already have a blueprint and a framework for what we're supposed to be doing, and while still acknowledging all of the challenges of the past and how we have moved forward and how we plan to continue to move forward. So that would be what I would have to say about that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. I saw something yesterday about adding the LBGTQ, whatever it is, the gay, adding that into the curriculum, and that some parents were upset because they didn't want their child to be taught that in school. Well, it shouldn't even be an issue. Why is that a learning subject? Well, we take out things like civics and American history and different basic academic things that children need to learn, but why do we have to include that into curriculum? I mean, I don't care what you choose to do. I have no issue. That's, whatever. It's a personal thing, but why does that need to be part of curriculum?
Well, we've gotten so far away from, the 3 R's.
Yeah.
Reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Mm-hmm.
And we had history and some civics, but that was when we all were in school. That's what you learned, those other things from your family.
Right.
That
Right.
I don't know why.
And that's exactly where it should be taught. I mean, that doesn't even need to be when you take civics out of school, or some type of history, or why would you replace it with? I don't know. That's probably for another show. I don't want to get into that.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened to Common Core? Is that gone, or is it? It is completely gone.
Yes. In fact, the state will be rolling out the new standards. They're called BEST, and I'm trying to remember the exact acronym that BEST stands for. But it's going to replace the new generation Sunshine State Standards. And again, that's all state driven. And our district has chosen to follow the state model, order from the state approved textbook list, all of those things to remain in compliance with what we're trying to accomplish. And we did our absolute best to comply with each of the governor's orders. We kept schools open, which was a challenge for sure. Keeping schools open didn't mean that we didn't have a ton of absences and illness, which we did, but the community really seemed to feel strongly that the safest place for kids to be is in school. And we knew for sure that there were 6-year-olds being left home alone during the shutdown.
Yeah.
So that was really our
scores,
motivation.
Didn't y'all determine that scores were much lower when the children were left to distance learning like that?
Yes, we actually identified only 300 students, and interestingly, they were all middle school students that really benefited from the virtual learning and where the parents would have been happy to continue that model. So we requested permission to be able to continue that, and we're denied by the state, yes. So there's definitely still work to be done to connect all of the levels of government in trying to do what's best for kids. But that's our challenge, that's our task. And
is there still any sort of, when I served, we had class size amendment. Is that gone also, or do you still have class size regulations?
Yes, we
is
still
it
have
24 students at the elementary level still?
It's 18.
Okay.
Right, 18 to 22.
So it's still, that is a state mandate still?
Yes, it is
Really?
Constitutional
So that
mandate.
goes kind of hand in hand with what the show we were talking about with Keith Poole the other day about growth. And people don't understand when you have all this new growth into town, you still have to accommodate class size measures.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you end up having the need for either portable housing or new schools, new infrastructure. So right now, you said we are 45,000 students, so we have seats,
Getting close
brick and
to that.
mortar seats for 45,000 students?
Oh no, we
Yeah.
use portables, and what makes it challenging is that we have pockets of overcrowding.
Mm-hmm.
Up in Fort McCoy and over in Reddick, we have plenty of open seats.
Sure.
But down in Saddlewood Elementary School and the 200 corridor,
Silver Spring
the shores is starting to
Oaks,
explode.
all the high
Marion
growth
Oaks.
areas, I'm sure, are overcrowded
Yes,
already.
yes.
They're usually overcrowded before we open the doors of a new school.
That's right, and you built a lot of schools during your time.
Yeah.
on the school
And
board.
y'all have completely stopped. I mean, that was 2010, 8, 9 when the crash happened. We kind of stopped building schools. Have you built any new schools since then?
Yes, Legacy Elementary is
Well,
our newest one.
Yeah, I was there for that land sale. And that's it, right?
And that's,
That was
and
the
that's
last
still not
one.
that new now.
Yeah. Now, did
People's-
y'all just purchase a piece of property in the shores somewhere out there to? Yeah.
Yes, we did, and there's a development going in
Right
alongside
now,
of it.
well, I saw that
already.
because I
Yes.
guess Ike Rainey had sold all that, and he filled that school with the development before y'all could even break ground. So
That's right.
that's how that's done, though. You
Mhm.
know, unfortunately, and people don't realize that we're always behind the 8 ball with accommodating class size.
Right,
Yeah.
and that does illustrate the importance of not just the government entities of local government at all levels working together and truly communicating, but also involving our business community
Mhm.
at a very authentic level, because if they trust us enough to share what some of their plans are, then we can begin to be a little bit more proactive.
You know, but again, and I understand what you're saying, Tristan, but who knew that that sale would go through and it would all work out the way it did? And that's 9 times out of 10, it's part of the deal. It's like, you know, I mean, when I came on board, we had a lot of subdivisions that I was working with different developers because I was a concrete contractor, so I knew
Right.
these development were coming,
Right.
you know, to say, well, we need something over here, we need something over here, but you don't always know that, you know, they're coming. I mean, it's
That's true.
Yeah.
And once they're actually permanent is
Right.
the time that the real conversation needs to start in earnest, I would think.
Mhm.
Because it still is a while before they actually are going to have people moving into those homes.
Well, how long do you think, since this is you're finishing up your first 4 years, how long did it take you to really grasp the ins and outs of being a board member? Because
The enormity of the task.
The enormity. Okay, because we have the elephant in the room. Don Browning is new and was plucked by the governor to fill Beth McCall's vacant seat, and he seems to be just a real challenge. He seems to be keeping y'all tied up because he's not doing his homework or he's not learning. I don't know. I do not want to speak on that. I see I'm getting you red, and I apologize, but I know
Oh,
you had
that's
like
okay.
a 7-hour work session yesterday,
Right.
which is crazy.
Yes.
And I was not told this by a board member. I was told by somebody who was trying to participate in the work session and make a presentation and wasn't able to because, you know, there's no homework, there's no research done before he comes to the meetings. He wants to do it all there at the meetings. Is that
Well,
accurate?
I would say that each and every board member is going to serve in the way that they see fit. I know that I'm a bit of an outlier because I was part of the school system as a para and then as a teacher and then at the district level. So it's a lot easier for me in a lot of ways to feel comfortable going after information and just understanding our processes. Again, I would encourage anyone that is thinking of running and if they're called to serve, to really do their best to build relationships and ask those questions. How can you really make wise budget decisions on a $750 million budget, which is what we currently have with all of our grants and things that will dry up soon. But regardless, it's big business, and big business in my mind requires big relationships. And that really just helps drive the ship forward. It's been a really interesting first term. You think about all of the firsts. We went from our final elected superintendent to our first appointed superintendent. The pandemic, or whatever you want to call it, was the biggest medical impact of modern times and impact on society. So there's just been a lot of unique first-time things to have to navigate. And I must say that there's already been a little bit of a shift back to, okay, the business of running the district, not how COVID is, how we're trying to mitigate COVID and continue to run a district somehow. So
And y'all did away with the mask mandate
Oh, yeah.
a month or so ago. So
A
is
while
it still
ago.
is it optional or just?
the last word from the governor is that you really can't require it at all. Our last iteration was providing an opt-out, because we heard from the community and we had a lot of parents that weren't necessarily against kids wearing masks when it seemed to be appropriate in super close quarters. But what they didn't want to see happening was their kids getting punished in any way for taking their mask down or
Right.
taking it off because it was dirty or things like that. So I believe that as all this evolved and went on, we learned a lot, and my hat is off to the community. They came in pretty much continuously and were really respectful and sharing how they felt and their perspective. And that's what made it work, and that's what's going to continue to make it work.
Well, good. Y'all recently redistrict not the school boundary lines, but the school board member district boundary lines. Is that correct?
I believe it's yes, because according to our supervisor of elections, each district should have as close as possible to an even number of
Population.
heads. Yes,
Correct.
not voters, but actual heads. It could be an infant, it could be a 90-year-old.
Right.
So
Right.
it was
So-
to balance that out.
So the lines were kind of redrawn, and school board members must reside in their district to run. They must be homesteaded in the district that they represent to run for office. It's not like county commission where you can live in a different district and then move into the district that you ran for. So school board is a little different. We've run into several issues with people, Beth McCall being a great example. She ran in her proper district, and she sold her home and moved while serving, which then put her in violation of the law, and she could have been arrested for that. So she opted to resign her seat. And she's since now been redistricted, I think, back into her correct district or something along. There was 3 people now, where there was 3 sitting board members in the same district.
Now, during redistricting, though, if you run for re-election and you were drawn out, you have to move, or you just it just holds true for while you're finishing out your term.
No, you have to reside for the school board. Unlike the county commission, you have to reside. Your primary homestead has to be in that district at all times, because I've shared that on this show before, and I shared it publicly that I was going through a divorce in 2006 when I ran for re-election. I owned a home on Lake Weir and a home on Southeast Ocala, which was my district. So I had went to my peers, my board members, to redistrict the lines to include all of Silver Spring Shores to Ocklawaha in my district, because right now District 4 has a portion of Silver Spring Shores. So because the house on Lake Weir was smaller than my house in town, and that's where I was going to move in my divorce, and it would have been a smaller home, easier for me to manage. And we did the redistricting with the proposed redistricting, and I was voted against. The board members didn't want to do it that way. And one of the reasons was my fellow board member Steve Herring wanted to keep the Stanton-Waresdale area of Lake Weir in his district because he wanted to be able to go to that school, which redistricting doesn't mean you cannot go to someone else's school. And inevitably, that's when he basically gave Jackie Porter the go-ahead to run against him, and he got beat and he lost 6 months later. So, but there's been a lot of controversy about candidates, yourself included.
Right. But what I'm asking is, I don't think if they redistrict and you no longer live while you're currently serving, I think that there's a caveat in there
I believe there is
that
Did that come up
that
during
you
your
can finish
redistricting?
out that you can finish out that term, because
but
that
then
would
you have to move into that.
then you
It's
would
a
have-
huge burden to have
then
to
you would
move.
have to move, but
Right.
it would be a huge burden if they redistrict, which we need to do. It's not,
Yes.
every 10 years we look at the lines and as Nancy stated, you want the same number of population, whether it's an infant to, you want the same number that you are representing. And so if they redistrict and draw you out,
but
that might
again,
be-
it goes back to you visit every school. I visited every school several times in my 8 years. You go to programs. You mainly are the district representative, and they like to have you sitting on stage during the 5th grade graduation and kindergarten graduation and 8th grade
Yes,
graduation,
the DARE
the DARE
graduations.
graduation, and all the programs. But all board members can go to any school. If I was, I had multiple parents, and I'm sure you do, that don't necessarily know who their district board member is, but they know a board member and they call your number.
Yes.
So you're
Yes.
not going to say, I can't help you because I'm not your district representative.
Of course
So maybe we need to do away with districts, since Wesley Wilcox has said it's not for him to enforce where they live. And then you have made multiple inquiries to the state,
I did.
and they don't enforce it either.
No, they do
So
not.
if it's a law on the books that no one is in charge of enforcing, do away with it.
Right, why do we have it?
Why do we
Yes,
have
yes.
it? I mean, it makes no sense.
Right.
And I think the original horse and buggy days and, back in the day, you wanted your representative to live in the community so that they know the ins and outs of your portion of
And so you had access,
Right.
but now.
But
we
I
have
think
telephones
now
and
it's,
Facebook and-
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So maybe it's time to go back to just one district instead of.
And I think it's very interesting that, the DC, the Congress in DC, they do not have to live in their district,
Yeah.
which is, at all.
Well, and isn't that something with congressional seats also? They can be like anywhere in the state
Mhm.
and still, yeah.
Right.
So Tom, I think, is a proponent of, Tom Schmitz is a proponent of single districts, I believe, and maybe we should therefore, so only the people that live in your district can vote for that person. It makes it a lot easier for campaigning rather
definitely.
than a
It would be a lot
countywide
less
campaign.
expensive, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think it would clear up a lot of confusion with the voters to just get some consistency. Because I know with gathering petition cards, it has to say on your petition card what district you're running for. And so people will look at it and say, they'll either say one of two things. I don't know if I'm in your district, or they'll say, I'm not in your district, so I can't do this.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. Anyone can complete a petition card. But if it says right there, and it does, right on the petition card, District 4, then voters give you the hairy eyeball like,
That may not be my district.
Right,
and-
are you
and,
really trying-
People don't really understand the full meaning behind the
Correct.
petition card.
Yes.
It's not a vote for you, it's just simply helping you get on the ballot.
Right.
And that comes to really into play in some city races. I've known candidates that you need 50 or like
36.
25 or 30, so whatever petitions to qualify, and they'll get like 50, and half of the people don't live
Yeah, they
inside
work.
the city limits, and it kicks them out,
Kicks them out, and
and they've not qualified then.
Yeah.
And so it
seen that.
gets confusing.
And it shouldn't be, should it?
No.
If we're really trying to encourage voting and participation.
But it goes hand in hand with something I talk about all the time, and that's the importance of the uninformed voter.
Right.
They just don't know the system. They just,
Right,
but yeah,
right,
they'll,
right.
they'll skew an election in a heartbeat and not
Yes.
realize that's what they've done by being
Yes.
uninformed.
Yes.
Well, one more question before we wrap this up, but you have the something unique that not many people have. You served right at almost 2 years with an elected superintendent and just about 2 years with an appointed superintendent. So give us the pros and cons.
Well, I will say that I campaigned against the appointed option because at my gut, I think anything that encourages people not to exercise their voting rights is the wrong road to be going down. However, then we are at the mercy of hoping and praying that we have someone great from the community that will step in to fill that role and actually win, or that someone from outside the community thinks enough of Marion County to move into Marion County and then run and try to build name recognition. So there's a few things in play, and when I really, you look at, first I'll give the research and then I'll give the rest of my opinion. The research shows that elected or appointed, it's pretty much a wash in terms of success. And so why is that? And I would say it's largely contingent on the strength of the school board, the support of the community, the ability of the superintendent, whether elected or appointed, to really bring everyone together, that has a skill set that really puts kids first and isn't afraid to put forward innovative programs. Career and technical education has always been so big in this area, and it's something I wouldn't have gone to college if it weren't for horses. Bottom line. and I've done all right. Mm-hmm. So we really are fortunate, I think, to have, and I'm not just saying that because I was part of the board that appointed her. I think we have a superintendent now that has a lot of the right stuff, so to speak, but it is such a shift for the community because she's not out there campaigning. She's working and doing community roundtables and things like that, but it's totally different than getting your photo ops every chance you can because you have another election going on. She's got her head down and she's just working and really trying to drive us to where we need to be. So those are kind of the pluses and minuses, pros and cons.
Yeah. She's actually the first superintendent since Skip Archibald that I have never met.
We're just going to have to do something.
Never met her,
and
never seen her anywhere. And
one thing that I really wish that had been done with her contract is that she needs to live in Marion County.
And she does.
She's moved here now?
Oh, yes, a long time ago.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I know. Where was she living? Vegas?
Windermere. She lived in Orlando.
Well, actually, she was more in Vegas even because she maintained an apartment there because she was called to serve out there in Clark County. So she would go back and forth because her husband's been a long-time resident
here.
Yeah, he has ties to Ocala, and then his work took him down. So now I think he's the one doing the commuting.
Well, we'd love to meet her. I would. Have you met her?
Briefly, but yes.
Yes. Well, Nancy, thank you so much for joining the conversation. We enjoyed it. I hope you did. Sheila, why don't you give the wrap up on the upcoming events?
So tomorrow we have the Habitat for Humanity Strawberry Festival. I'm not sure if you have not pre-ordered your strawberries, if you can even get any now, but it is always a huge event. Habitat for Humanity does a fantastic job for our community, building homes for those who otherwise could not afford them. So this is their largest fundraiser. So please come out. It's at McPherson. Last year there was 150 vendors. Year before last.
A lot of events now resurfacing since COVID, thank goodness.
We've got King of the Wing coming up.
We're seeing great turnouts on this. King of the Wing is April 7th, downtown at Citizen Circle. You can go on our Facebook page, King of the Wing 2022, and purchase the tickets from Eventbrite. I did announce on one or both of the last shows that I did that the Olympic bronze and gold medal winners from Marion County will be coming to town. That date changed as of 2 days ago. The Olympian weekend is now March 24th and 25th, the Friday and Saturday. They will be at multiple events for those 2 days, all culminating to a parade starting at Webb Stadium at 5 p.m. on Saturday, March 25th. Ending at the downtown square where there will be a big proclamation ceremony, and the mayor is hoping to bring in the governor, and so far it's looking like maybe. So.
And one last thing,
awesome.
I did see on social media Casey DeSantis is now cancer free, and so we are so very happy about that.
Yes.
He was
jumped right on it.
The day that she was diagnosed, the governor was actually in Marion County
Yes.
for the Republican Executive Committee dinner, so that's great that she's now cancer free. So hopefully he'll be here for that event, but the parade is going to be great. They have a lot of good events. There'll be a breakfast for them, a couple of luncheons, just events all day long, all for 2 days, so not to be missed. And other than that, please remember to like and subscribe to our channel.
Remind me the event that Perry Stanner was talking to us about. It's going to be at Warhorse Harley
On April 30th, that is going to be a car show to benefit the Boys and Girls Club of Marion County and the Warrior Wheels Project, which provides transportation for veterans, much needed veterans that need some transportation.
Lots of exciting things happen in Marion County. You know, it's always, I've lived here since '81, and if you tell Marion County residents what you need, they step
Any
up.
school system events coming up, though? Or any?
Oh my goodness, we just had our latest parent engagement opportunity at Vanguard High School last weekend. The Southeastern Youth Fair continues. We've got the grand finale with the Hog Show on Saturday, the place to see and be seen with mud on your boots.
Absolutely. There was something else I was gonna. What week is spring break?
Spring break, and I just saw it on the marquee myself, is the 14th through the 18th of March.
Of March.
Yeah, so it's
Oh,
coming
okay.
up.
so
Coming
it
up.
is.
It's early.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
Hopefully
Early
it'll
this
be
year.
warm and everybody can get to the
Good
beach.
to know. All right. Well, Nancy Thrower, thank you so much and good luck on your reelection campaign.
you.
Sheila, we're going to
I
grow
know.
your hair back.
That's
We're
right, and we're going to continue to pray for you.
We're going to follow the Sheila hair growth. And see what
That's
happens.
right, that's right. We need to get a ruler.
I know.
For those of you who don't know, I shaved my head when my daughter, right before Christmas, in support of my daughter who was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and so my hair grows really fast, and I thought it would be much longer by now, but I should have had Earl Honey use the guard on it so he didn't cut it quite so short. But anyway,
Well, letting Earl Honey cut your hair, number one, was quite an act of heroic
it was
bravery.
a family
And me being the good
event.
friend that I am, I feel like it would have been fun for us to both wear wigs and alternate and change wigs on a regular basis. But
Right.
Sheila was not the wig fan that I am, so
No.
she just didn't want to go that route. Anyway, enough. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
And,
thanks to both of you for having me live.